Patrick Mahomes has a specific weapon in mind that he wants the Chiefs to draft.
Patrick Mahomes has been in his ear trying to recruit him to the Chiefs. He actually stated Mahomes has already joked or half joked about recruiting me to Kansas City, telling him he'd look good in the red and gold.
Let's talk about this Patrick Mahomes mystery receiver. He wants to get in here to Kansas City. Welcome in, football fans. We are all Chiefed up, the #1 independent Chiefs channel on YouTube. Do us a favor, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. We got this podcast rolling on Tuesday, March 31st, about 23 days outside of the 2026 NFL draft. I know everybody's excited for that. After a lackluster 2025 season, Chiefs fans are ready to turn the page, get some new players, see what kind of tweaks Andy Reid has for this offense rolling into next season. Patrick Mahomes has a specific weapon in mind that he wants the Chiefs to draft. We're going to talk about that. We also have a few of our own guys, as far as wide receivers go, that have kind of been flying under the radar a bit. We're going to talk a bit about those guys as well and how they could help the Kansas City Chiefs. Let's talk about this Patrick Mahomes mystery receiver. He wants to get in here to Kansas City.
Yeah, Patrick Mahomes, he was at the Texas Tech Pro Day, and that thing was a spectacle. Texas Tech, a lot of people think that they can't develop talent. They don't have a lot of talent, but they have a lot of talent in this year's draft. David Bailey for one, Skylar Gill-Howard, you've got Lee Hunter, the list goes on and on. But the thing about it is they're looking at some offensive players there as well, because Patrick Mahomes, he was in Lubbock. There was one wide receiver that I feel like he was very much building a little bit of chemistry with, and that was Reggie Virgil, the 6'3" transfer from Miami of Ohio, come over to Texas Tech. He had a solid season. It was nothing crazy, in my opinion, but Virgil himself has told the media, he's told members of the media that Patrick Mahomes has been in his ear and trying to recruit him to the Chiefs. He actually stated Mahomes has already joked or half joked about recruiting me to Kansas City, telling him he'd look good in the red and gold. Steve, is Mahomes like in a position where he can start picking more players? Because the one I can remember was Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and Chiefs fans hated that.
Good grief. We might need him to stick at QB and not try to be a GM here, man. I'm not for sure about it. But, yeah, everybody has that Clyde Edwards-Helaire PTSD from where Patrick Mahomes is picking. But you know what? I think some Chiefs fans might actually like Reggie Virgil to the Chiefs because he breaks that norm of having the small, tiny, fast wide receiver. He's not quite that, Mike. He's more of a tall, slender boundary guy, right? He spent it, like you said, he spent his early years in Miami of Ohio, and then he proved that he could compete in the Power Four with Texas Tech. His stats in 2025, 55 receptions, 676 yards, 6 touchdowns. He also added 2 rushing touchdowns, showing some versatility in space. So he's got elite body control, a massive catch radius. He's a high pointer. He can get those contested catches. This is a bigger body wide receiver. He's still a little slender, but he's a bigger bodied wide receiver than what a lot of Chiefs fans are used to. And he kind of leans more towards that X type that everybody really wants. So I know Reggie Virgil's not the most sexy sounding name in this draft, and I know it's way further down in the draft than, say, Carnell Tate or someone like that. But I do think he could be a pretty good weapon for the Chiefs if they use him right. And I think it kind of, like I said, I think it could excite some people because it gets off of that prototype, tiny, fast wide receiver that Brett Veach and Andy Reid always want to go after.
Yeah, Virgil had 47 catches for 590 yards and 6 touchdowns in 2025. So he did prove that he could stretch the field. He can make big plays. I think a lot of people's currently got this guy going round 4, round 5, maybe even round 6 in some people's rankings. Personally, I think if Patrick Mahomes really likes him and he really gets in Brett Veach and Andy Reid's ear and he convinces them that it's somebody that could really expand this offense and that he has a lot of chemistry with him, you could see them reaching in like round 3 even. And I know a lot of Chiefs fans would get a little irritated, myself included. If you're reaching for Reggie Virgil in round 3,
right,
I think that's something that, maybe we shouldn't do. Round 4, I'm okay with it. Round 5, I'm more than okay with it. But here's the thing. I've heard that a lot of draft scouts and a lot of NFL upper management has said there's a lot of players on that Texas Tech team that people have maybe later in the draft that some scouts believe are going to go earlier. And so Virgil could fit into that category as well, and maybe a round 3 on Virgil, or good Lord, a round 2. That sounds crazy to pick him at pick 40. It seems insane, but If people in the NFL really have him higher up on the boards than a lot of us outside, the circles do, it's crazy because we've known Brett Veach has been able to do that, and he does not care what people think. He'll go get his receiver. And then another guy that we know that Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes kind of liked and fought for a little bit was Rashee Rice when he come out, if you remember that. So Rashee Rice was a guy that he worked out with down in Texas a little bit, and they ended up drafting him. So maybe that can ease the Clyde Edwards-Helaire kind of thing a little bit.
Yeah, I don't know about reaching on him that far, man. I got him as like a 5th or 6th round guy, right? I think that's comfortable for me for Reggie Virgil. To me, Mike, it kind of reminds me of like a developmental version of Josh Reynolds. Do you remember that kid?
I do.
There was a time, I think it was one of the off seasons recently, where a lot of Chiefs fans wanted Josh Reynolds to come to Kansas City. They thought he'd be a good fit and something a little bit different than what we were used to. Here's the problem I have with Reggie Virgil, Mike, and the reason why I don't think that Brett Veach and Andy Reid will get on board with Patrick Mahomes about trying to get this guy. And his separation is just very below average. He relies more on his frame and his hands. He has no twitch. And I think that's really going to leave a sour taste in Brett Veach and Andy Reid's mouth. We know that's what they want in receivers. They want those twitchy, those fast, those guys that are quick in short space. And Reggie Virgil's the opposite of that. So I think it would take a lot of convincing from Patrick Mahomes to get those two to bite on Reggie Virgil, in my opinion. And I especially don't see him reaching on Reggie Virgil, knowing some of his downsides there. He's also not really known for yak or anything like that, and that's what they look for as well. So I think this is going to be a tough pitch for Patrick Mahomes to Andy Reid and Brett Veach to try to get Reggie Virgil in here.
Well, he does have a good amount of special teams work. That always helps in your favor. I think he's got okay quicks, speeds, things like that. I think it's okay. I think he gets in and out of his routes pretty quickly. He climbs the ladder. He attacks the catch point. That's another thing I've seen. I think he was 53%, somewhere around there, on contested catches in 2025. He grinds out extra yards after contact. He ain't really making nobody miss, but he'll grind it out. I think he does a good job of selling double moves and this and that. Now, I will say you are right. I don't think it's elite speed or quickness. So he is going to have a lot of tighter windows in the NFL. Mahomes should be able to hit those tighter windows. And Andy Reid is good at scheming people. At least he was back in the day. It's not looked so good over the past few years that he's been able to scheme people wide open. So we'll see. I think he does have a lot of focus drops and things like that. I don't know if I would take this guy any earlier than round 4, round 5. Again, Brett Veach could possibly take him in round 3 if they really fall in love with him. I would be a little bit leery of that, to be honest.
Yeah, same here, man. You guys get in the comments. Let us know what you feel about Reggie Virgil. Do you think that's somebody that the Chiefs actually should be targeting in the draft? Be it 3rd, 4th, 5th round, whatever you think. Let us know in the comments. Mike, let's start talking about some of these other guys that are kind of flying under the radar a little bit. We hear everything there is to hear about Carnell Tate, Mekhi Lemon. All these names just fly at you all the time. But there's a couple of guys that we've talked about kind of off camera, and we feel like they could be weapons in the NFL. So I think that we should give them a little bit of spotlight here today. And, of course, you guys listening, get in the comments. Let us know how you feel about these guys.
Yeah, the first guy I want to talk about, I've talked about him a little bit before, but I want to deep dive in on him today. And I feel like this is a guy you can maybe take at pick 40. If you don't get a receiver in the first round, you're probably going to have to get him in pick 40. I don't think he's going to last to round 3, pick 74. I just don't see it. But that's going to be another Rashee Rice molded player. So in round 1, you're going to have Mekhi Lemon. That's your Rashee Rice guy. In round 2, it's Jeremy Bernard out of Alabama. I've spoke about him, and I really like him. He come out as a 4-star recruit. He went to Michigan State. He went to Washington, had to play behind a bunch of guys in Washington. He broke out this year in Alabama. Okay, he had a pretty good year this year. There's a lot of things that I really like about Jeremy Bernard. To me, he's like a Swiss Army knife. Like, he is just all over the map. They use him in the backfield just like they did with Rashee Rice. They've handed the ball off to him before. He works out of the slot. He can work out wide. He's a hell of a blocker. Reid loves receivers that can be moved around the formation. That's all there is to it. He can play the slot, the Z. He takes handoffs. He's positionless. That's just the way he is. Again, he's a good blocker. Kansas City runs a lot of screens, outside zone runs. They require wide receivers who not only want to block, but they need to be able to block. Bernard gets after it. That's what he does. He is a very good run blocker. And then also, Mahomes and Andy Reid value guys that need to be where they are supposed to be and guys that they can trust. Bernard led all of college football with the lowest drop percentage. He's only had a 2.5% drop rate. That goes all the way back to his high school days, is how many drops he's had. So he's a complete safety blanket. He doesn't drop anything. The dude is a flat-out baller. And I think that in the second round, if you want to replicate that Rashee Rice thing and you don't want to take limit in the first, this guy, Jeremy Bernard, is a guy you can look at to do that. He's an awesome football player.
Absolutely, dude. Just to add to what you already said about Bernard, but he has elite spatial awareness against zone coverage. He's got vacuum hands, super reliable. I really like what this kid does. He's very high effort. And like you said, he's a yak guy. He can block, all of those things. I think that he's just like the ultimate chain mover in this draft. To me, he's a guy I feel like could be like a little bit of a security blanket for Mahomes come third down, stuff like that. Almost something like Juju Smith-Schuster was doing, but obviously I think it has potential to be at a higher level than Juju at this point in his career. But I really like Jeremy Bernard, man. I know a lot of people are not talking about him. There have been a few of you guys in our live streams on our videos that get in the comments and you bring up Jeremy Bernard. Mike's been big on him so far, and I really like his tape too. Mike, I think he's an excellent pick for somebody mid to late second round. And if you were to fall to maybe early third round, I think you got a steal right there, in my opinion. But let's talk about another receiver that I think no one's really talking about. And this kid actually came from Alabama. We were just talking about an Alabama receiver. Now we're talking about an Alabama transfer to the University of Kentucky, Mike, our stomping grounds. Let's talk about Kendrick Law a little bit, Mike. This guy, he's a projection prospect to me. Like, a lot of what scouts are saying about him is, you know, the production's not exactly there, but when we look at what this kid can do, the ceiling is super high. If you just look at, like, you know, his raw stats, it doesn't scream first, second round guy, nothing like that. And that's why he's way down in this draft, is because of exactly that, because his athletic profile and his versatility and what he was able to do at the combine. I mean, he was off the charts, brother. This kid's very athletic and he could play. Like I said, he spent 2 years in a crowded room in Alabama before transferring to Kentucky his senior season, just to prove that he could be a focal point, right? He ended up with 53 receptions, 540 yards, and 3 touchdowns in Kentucky in 2025. He also had 8 carries for 53 yards and served as a primary kickoff returner for Kentucky, where he averaged about 20 yards per return. The guy's a complete yak monster. He had a staggering 505 out of 540 yards receiving, all came from yak. So that's another knock on Kendrick Law, is the fact that he doesn't have like a dynamic route tree, and a lot of his yardage come from manufactured touches. But this is a guy that I think you could pull into Kansas City, and all of a sudden Andy Reid has this piece that he always likes to have, right? He's the guy that you can get design screens to, or you can put him in the backfield, or you can run those jet sweeps, kind of like McCole Hardman style. But Kendrick Law's pretty exciting, dude. If you look at him, he's kind of a little bowling ball type build. At 5'11", 203. He ran a 4.45 40-yard dash at the combine. His play speed actually looks faster than that. If you watch his tape, he definitely looks faster than a 4.45. His vertical was 42 inches, which is third among all wide receivers at the combine. A broad jump of 10.8. And his 10-yard split was a 1.56, Mike, which is elite acceleration. So this kid can move, and I think he could be a special piece for somebody if they can figure out how to fit him into an offense. If anyone can do that, it's Andy Reid.
Yeah, look, he's short, but he's not small. Like you mentioned, he's very strong lower body. He's very fast. He ran that 4.45 40. He's around 203 pounds. He's a little bigger than what we're used to at that like gadget type thing, but that's what he would be here. He's going to have gadget potential, and that's what Reid is the master of, is getting those manufactured touches. This guy's going to excel in jet sweep, screen, shovel passes, things like that. He would have more of a role of like a Kadarius Toney, McCole Hardman, what those guys were doing in our offense. I think he helped special teams with the new kickoff rules that we've seen now for a year or so. He could be a guy that comes in and gives that a boost a little bit. I know they tried Jalen Royals a little bit. They brought back Nico Remigio, but maybe this is a guy they want to come in. They want to get a little bit more juice back there. Who knows? And then, like you said, he's really yak-centric. He could take a 3-yard hitch, put it into a 15-yard gain pretty quickly. That's what he was asked to do at UK this year, and he wasn't asked to do much else. So he's got a very limited route tree. He doesn't really do a lot of things outside. I don't think he's a very polished route runner. 60% of his career production come this past season. So he's never really put back-to-back good seasons together. And then he's got a historically low ADOT, only of about 4.3 yards per play. That's his average depth of target. So to me, that suggests that he's not very good at tracking the deep balls, even with all that speed. So he does have good hands. He's good at special teams. He forced 13 missed tackles, I think, in 2025. But the thing is I just don't know how polished of a receiver he is. So he's basically just going to be a gadget guy for a few years. And with this deep, I'll say deep wide receiver room, because right now we've got 4 or 5 on the roster, and I don't think they're going anywhere this season. I don't know if this is a guy you draft to bring in and maybe, you stash him away just to do like gadget plays for the next few years. To me, you would have to really fall in love with maybe some of the stuff he can do as a route runner. And I don't see a lot of route running potential here. Maybe that's something Chad O'Shea can work with.
Yeah, well, I don't think that Law needs to be a wide receiver one type star in the NFL. It just doesn't matter. In this era of the NFL, Mike, I think offenses are kind of obsessed with positionless receivers or positionless players per se. And I think Law could kind of be kind of a plug and play type kid. They can put in and get him to do a lot of different things. He can be pretty dynamic. Mike, there's actually some scouts out there that have said this kid could sneak into the back end of the second round to early third round and really surprise some people. And there have been another scout has quoted that he thinks he could easily become a 700-yard receiver with maybe a potential 300 yards rushing in the NFL. So a lot of these scouts are really like I said, he's a projection type guy. They look at his athletic ability, just his traits, and they're like, what could someone mold this kid to be? It could be this. So I think a lot of it's projection. If somebody wants to reach on him and try to take him in early round 3, I think they will definitely be taking a risk. But I think if you could catch Kendrick Law, say, back into the 5th round, nab him. You might be able to get something out of him.
Yeah, I've got him towards the 6th or 7th right now. Right, I haven't seen a lot to put him up that high. I've got him right there with Barry and Brown, who played at UK before he transferred over to LSU. Like, they're right in the same wheelhouse. He did go to the Shrine Bowl, and there were some scouts saying that they thought he could bench upwards of 500 pounds, which is insane. So the kid's strong. Yeah. He's got a lot of potential. He good metrics. 21 on the bench press is what they clocked, or they got him at. 42 vert. A 12.8 broad jump. He's explosive. I just don't know how explosive. Like, I don't know. Maybe he explodes up the draft board.
Dude, it's almost like you got this, dynamite all packed together. And it's like, how can we get this thing to just explode?
Right.
And then can we keep it together? Could Chad O'Shea mold him into something? And then, of course, do you want a project type player, or do you want somebody that can come in here and kind of just be seamless? So I don't know. It just depends, but I do think he's intriguing. Mike, you had another one you wanted to talk about.
Yeah, look, we've all talked about Jordan Tyson in the 1st round, and then his medicals may push him towards the end of the 1st. But he's that true X kind of guy, and you can just watch him on film, and he looks good. He looks like the best route runner in this draft. He's like the Lad McConkey of this draft. But I was going down the list, and I was evaluating players, and I wanted to find another guy that was a really good route runner. Like, I wanted a smooth route runner, and I think I found one. Antonio Williams out of Clemson, 5'11", 190. I've got him going right now, probably 3rd round, but I think he could reach into the 2nd round. I think he could get up to a high-end wide receiver, too, in the NFL. I really do. There's a lot to really like about Antonio Williams, in my opinion. The first thing I'll say about Antonio Williams is that he's just smooth. He knows what he's doing. He knows how to get there, and he does it quite well, to be honest. I think that it's something that you watch on film, and it's quite amazing how he's always so open, or he's always in the thing. And he doesn't have the greatest quarterbacks. I do know Cade Klubnik threw him the ball this year. Even at the pro day, he was overthrowing him a few times. I like Cade Klubnik, but I don't know if he was the most accurate or whatever, but he had 55 catches, 604 yards, 4 touchdowns in only 10 games. He had a nagging hamstring injury. So again, just like Tyson, he seems to have injuries a little bit. But look, he's more than just a slot guy. I think a lot of people project him to the slot. I think he can play all over the field. I think he can go out wide and inside. They'll use often at Clemson a lot of free releases, and that gets him into space, kind of like the Tennessee thing that those receivers do. But I think he's a lot better. I think he's got really good juice to get in and out of his stuff. I think he uses suddenness, tempo, body fakes. Dude, he uses a head fake and just a violent head maneuver that gets him in and out of breaks, and he sinks his weight so low to get in and out of breaks, causes those corners to pause a lot. I really like what Antonio Williams can do. I think this dude could be a sleeper pick. He can even go in the right situation. This kid could be up for like offensive rookie of the year at the end of the year. I'm not even lying. I seen shades, and I'll go ahead and just throw this out here. I seen shades of Darnell Mooney, Deontay Johnson. That's what I seen with him. And I don't, want to put those kinds of things as a floor or a ceiling.
Right.
But that's where I kind of see it.
Yeah, well, I looked at my notes on Antonio Williams when you said we were going to talk about him today. And what I actually wrote beside him was if you can get him in the late third or fourth round, he could be a gem in this draft. Okay, so if you go back and look at what he did at Clemson, I think you might have mentioned it already, but 55 catches for 604 yards and 4 touchdowns. This was all while being hampered slightly by an injury, okay? He still was all ACC. Very versatile. The kid can do a lot of things. He can catch, he could run, he can even pass. He's 4 for 4 in his career passing for 143 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Yeah.
And he returns punts. He averaged about 10 yards per return on punt returns. Advanced Analytics, they ranked him as 8th in the country with a 92.8 PFF grade on deep passes since 2024. So he can absolutely be a deep threat for you. And I just think that he's, like you said, exceptional footwork, the suddenness at the top of his routes. It makes him an elite playmaker. He's just got that mentality to get out there and get it done. He's very dangerous in a trick play game, which is very dangerous for Andy Reid to have. And also, he can be productive in both man and zone. I think the only thing about him, Mike, is he's a tad bit undersized to me for the boundary. And I think his play strength is kind of average, and he might get muscled around a little bit from time to time in the NFL. And then he's had some injury history, the hamstring and some ankle issues in college. But I think overall, dude, this guy could kind of be like a Mahomes type dream, really, if you think about it. His ability to separate quickly from the slot and his experience in that gadget game, it can make him like a day one contributor in Kansas City. Really, you were to be able to grab him at the end of the third round or in the fourth round, and all of a sudden he could be starting his rookie season. We didn't get to see Jalen Royals, but I think that was because of nagging injuries. I think Antonio Williams could be one that might come in and actually contribute quickly as a rookie, and that's rare for Andy Reid, right?
Yeah.
But he's essentially a polished version of like a weapon that Andy Reid would love to have and has always been trying to find. So I wouldn't be surprised to see the Chiefs sniff around Antonio Williams, maybe kick the tires on that. And if he falls a little further than they expect him to, I wouldn't be surprised for them to take a shot on him.
Yeah, I've said it before. If you you have to look at how the wide receivers are laid out and how our picks are laid out. So if you take a wide receiver at number 9, I think Mekhi Lemon is the guy you probably want. And this is assuming that you're probably not re-signing back Rashee Rice, so you're probably wanting to fill that and add to it. I think Mekhi Lemon would be the guy at number 9. And I know a lot of people want Tate, but Mekhi Lemon is that, yak guy that fits into this offense. If you're picking him around 29, you're probably looking at KC Concepcion. I think he's a really good yak weapon that you could use there. If you're looking at 40, I think that's where Jeremy Bernard comes into play. And again, some of these guys could go a little earlier if teams fall in love with them. I think at 74 for me is the Antonio Williams. I think all these guys are different levels of a guy that you can move around, a guy you can put in the backfield, you can hand the ball off. They're just Swiss Army knives. I think you can do a lot with these receivers. I think they fit in the Chiefs offense very well. I think they fit in the Andy Reid philosophy very well. I think they're weapons for Mahomes. These are all the guys I'm spotting that I'm putting right around those times. And then probably for round 4, I'll probably put Reggie Virgil just because if Patrick Mahomes got any say, then Reggie Virgil's probably getting a lot of looks. So, and that's not saying they couldn't double up on some of these guys. If you was to get a Jeremy Bernard at 40 and a Reggie Virgil in round 4 or round 5, and now you've got an X and a yak guy, you've got to make this receiver room get a little more deep for years to come, because after next year, we've got one guy under contract.
There's a lot of insiders talking about how they think the Chiefs could double dip at that wide receiver position. And Mike, here's the thing about it. I actually think if there's a run on receivers in the first round, that Omar Cooper Jr. and Casey Concepcion could be gone by pick 29. So pick 29 gets a little hairy when it comes to wide receivers. So maybe all these guys that we've talked about today, be it Reggie, Virgil, Jeremy Bernard, Kendrick Law, or who's the last one we just talked
Antonio
about?
Williams.
Antonio Williams. I think those could definitely be targets for the Chiefs if they were to have to attack, cornerback or edge rusher early in the draft. So we talked the other day, Mike, about how maybe 29 might have to be where you have to take a shot at Zion Williams or someone like that, or Zion Young. I'm sorry. But if they have to do that, then they might be looking at receiver a little later in this draft than in the first, second round. And these are the types of guys I think the Chiefs could be looking at just in case that were to happen. You guys get in the comments. Let us know how you feel about each one of these. Do you like any of them? Do you hate any of them? Let us know all your thoughts. We like to read them. If you're listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, whatever it might be sure to give your boys a 5-star review. Write some kind words about us if you don't mind. If you're watching on YouTube, do us a favor, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We'd love to have you along for the ride, and we'll catch you next time, Chiefs Kingdom. Peace.